The alien ship hovered over Earth like an ominous omen, its metallic form casting an unnatural shadow across the ruined cityscape below. The invaders had come with their arrogance, their so-called divine power, and their proclamations of godhood. They had expected worship, submission, and unquestioning obedience. They got war instead. Humanity didn't bow. We never had. The history of Earth was written in defiance, in revolutions, in uprisings against those who claimed superiority. Why would aliens be any different? When they arrived, they called themselves gods. Their towering figures, gleaming silver skin, and ethereal energy manipulation made them look divine. They could bend matter with a flick of their elongated fingers. They could summon storms, crack the earth, and heal wounds with mere thought. But their greatest power was their belief that no species had ever stood against them. Until us. I stood among the remnants of a once proud city, gripping my plasma rifle, watching as a squad of resistance fighters took cover behind collapsed buildings. The air smelled of burning metal and ozone, the remnants of another skirmish. Smoke curled into the sky, twisting around the grotesque shapes of enemy warships. Their holy conquest wasn't going as planned. My earpiece crackled. "Commander, we've got them bottlenecked near the old highway. They're trying to regroup." A loud explosion cut off the transmission. A wave of heat washed over me as a nearby building crumbled under a direct energy blast. I ducked behind a broken slab of concrete, cursing under my breath. The so-called gods were getting desperate. We had been fighting for months. At first, they treated us like insects, something beneath their notice, something they could crush under their heels without a second thought. But humans were never that easy to destroy. The moment their first holy warriors fell to our bullets, their illusion of invincibility shattered. They bled. They died. And once we knew they weren't gods, we stopped fearing them. I signaled to my squad, and we moved quickly, weaving through the wreckage of our own city. They had come expecting worship. Instead, they found a battlefield. Let's see how much divinity they had left when we dragged them down to our level. We moved like shadows through the ruins, our boots crunching softly against shattered glass and debris. The once bustling city had become a graveyard of steel and concrete, its towering skyscrapers now broken monuments to a past that no longer existed. But we weren't here to mourn. We were here to kill gods. Up ahead, a group of them stood in formation, their bodies glowing faintly with an unnatural light. Their presence alone warped the air, making it feel heavy, charged with unseen energy. In the beginning, that aura had terrified us. We had seen them walk through fire, heal their wounded, and tear through tanks like they were made of paper. But now, we knew their secret. They weren't invincible. They were just another species. And they had weaknesses. I raised a fist, signaling my team to hold. We crouched low behind the remnants of a collapsed overpass, watching. The enemy stood tall, their elongated limbs shimmering with energy, their expressions unreadable. They still looked at us like we were beneath them, like our resistance was an insult to their very existence. Good. Let them be angry. Let them underestimate us again. I pressed a button on my wristband, activating the dampeners we had stolen from their own technology. The moment the device powered on, their glow flickered. The energy around them wavered, like a candle caught in a gust of wind. One of them staggered, visibly shaken. That was our cue. I fired first. The plasma round cut through the air, striking one in the chest. It didn't just wound, it burned straight through, leaving a gaping hole where something vital had been. The alien's body convulsed before crumpling to the ground. For a moment, the others just stared. Maybe they were in shock. Maybe they still believed they were gods, that one of them couldn't just die like that. But they could. And we were here to remind them. "Open fire!" I shouted. The air erupted with gunfire, plasma rounds, and explosions. My team moved with precision, cutting through their ranks like wolves tearing into prey. The enemy tried to retaliate, but their powers faltered under the dampening field. Their energy blasts flickered, their shields failed to form in time, and their attempts to heal their fallen were useless. One of them roared in frustration and lunged at me, its long fingers crackling with barely contained power. Even weakened, it was fast. Too fast. I barely had time to dodge as it swiped at me, its claws raking against my armor, sending me sprawling. It loomed over me, eyes burning with fury. "You think yourselves our equals?" Its voice boomed, filled with something that almost sounded like genuine offense. I smirked, gripping the knife at my belt. "No," I said. "I think we're better." And then I drove the blade straight into its throat. It let out a strangled gasp, clutching at the wound as dark, thick blood spilled down its chest. I kicked its body off me as it collapsed, twitching, eyes wide in disbelief. Another god, dead at the hands of mere mortals. The rest of them broke. Without their powers, without their sense of superiority, they were just as fragile as any other living thing. They turned to run, their arrogance replaced by fear. I stood, wiping the blood from my blade, watching them flee. "Do gods run?" I muttered. My radio crackled again. "Commander, we've got reports coming in. This is happening all over the world. They're losing control." I exhaled slowly. We had spent so long fighting, so long struggling to survive, that the thought of winning almost felt foreign. But it was happening. We weren't just surviving anymore. We were winning. And soon, the so-called gods would know what it felt like to kneel. The battlefield was quiet now, except for the distant echoes of explosions in other parts of the city. The sky, once dominated by their massive ships, was beginning to clear as our forces pushed them back. Smoke and dust clung to the air, but there was something else beneath it. Something that hadn't been there before. Victory. I scanned the wreckage, my squad moving carefully over the bodies of fallen invaders. They still looked so untouchable, even in death. Their shimmering skin, their elongated forms, their strange, otherworldly beauty. It was easy to see why the first humans who met them thought they were divine. But gods don't bleed like this. "Commander," my second-in-command, Davis, called out. "We've secured the area, no survivors." I nodded, stepping over the rubble toward one of their bodies. This one had died with its eyes open, staring blankly at the sky, as if it was still trying to understand how this could have happened. They came here expecting worship. Instead, they found war. "They're running scared," Davis continued. "Reports say they're pulling back across the planet. We're breaking their lines everywhere." I clenched my jaw. We had fought too hard, lost too many, to let them retreat and regroup. If they left today, they'd return tomorrow with more forces, more weapons, more of their self-righteous fury. That wasn't going to happen. "Then we don't give them a chance to breathe," I said. "We hit them while they're on the run. We take back every inch of land they stole from us. No mercy." Davis hesitated for only a moment before nodding. He knew as well as I did. This wasn't just about winning a battle. This was about making sure they never came back. Before I could give the order, my radio crackled again. A new voice came through, sharp and urgent. "Commander, you need to see this," said Sergeant Patel from another unit. "We found something different." I frowned. "Different how?" A pause. Then, "It's not a soldier, it's one of their leaders." I exchanged a glance with Davis before responding. "Where?" "An underground bunker beneath the ruins of the old financial district," Patel said. "We breached it expecting a command center, but this is something else. He's not fighting. He's just sitting here." I didn't like that. The ones who commanded this invasion, the ones who called themselves gods, weren't the type to surrender. "We're on our way," I said. 15 minutes later, we descended into the darkness beneath the city, following the flickering lights of Patel's squad. The bunker was massive, its walls covered in glowing alien script. Machines hummed softly, casting eerie shadows, and at the center of it all sat one of them. Not a warrior, not a soldier, a ruler. He was taller than the others, his silver skin darker, his form more refined. Even seated, he radiated authority, but there was no power in his eyes now. Just exhaustion. He looked at me as I approached, his expression unreadable. "You think you've won," he said in perfect English. I stared at him, my rifle steady. "Haven't we?" He exhaled slowly. "You don't understand what you've done." I almost laughed. "Oh, I think we do. We took down your armies. We killed your gods, and soon we'll make sure your kind never comes back." He shook his head. "You truly believe we are gods?" He smiled, but there was no amusement in it. "We never were. We are only servants." A chill ran down my spine. "Servants of what?" His eyes flickered, something almost like pity in them. "The real gods," he said, "and now that you've killed us, they will come." The bunker seemed to grow colder. For the first time in this war, I felt something I hadn't felt before. Doubt. Outside, the sky rumbled. And the war wasn't over yet. I kept my rifle aimed at him, but my mind raced. For months we had been fighting, bleeding, dying to defeat them. We had called them gods, then stripped that title away with every body we left on the battlefield. But now, he was telling me something worse. Something I hadn't even considered. They weren't the gods. They were just the beginning. The bunker lights flickered as a low vibration pulsed through the walls. A distant rumbling echoed from above, shaking the dust loose from the ceiling. My earpiece crackled with frantic voices. "Commander, something's happening in the sky. We've got—" Static swallowed the rest of the message. I narrowed my eyes at the alien leader, tightening my grip on my weapon. "You're bluffing." He didn't answer. He just sat there, calm, accepting. As if everything that had happened, every death on both sides, was nothing more than the prelude to something far worse. Davis glanced at me, his face tense. "What the hell does he mean? The real gods?" The alien finally spoke again, his voice softer now, almost resigned. "We were their envoys," he said. "We spread their dominion. We conquered in their name. But we were never the highest. We were never the strongest. We were just the ones sent ahead." I didn't want to believe him. But the bunker trembled again, the energy in the air growing heavier, charged with something unnatural. I turned to Patel. "Get me a visual on whatever's happening up there, now." One of his men tapped into his wrist console, hacking into a satellite feed. A small screen flickered to life, giving us a shaky view of the sky above the ruined city. I felt my stomach drop. The ships we had spent months fighting, the great floating monoliths that had darkened our skies and rained death upon our world, were now burning. Their forces were scattering, fleeing like insects before a storm. But they weren't fleeing from us. They were fleeing from something else. A shadow loomed over the horizon, a massive, unearthly shape descending from the void beyond our atmosphere. It wasn't a ship. Not like theirs, not like anything I had ever seen. It was something vast, something alive. The air inside the bunker turned cold, and for the first time since the war had started, I felt fear crawl down my spine. Davis muttered a curse. "Commander, what the hell is that?" I had no answer. The alien in front of me, the one we had beaten, the one who should have been our enemy, just looked at the screen and whispered, "They're here." Above us, the sky split open, and the real war began. The ground shuddered as the sky above us twisted, a massive tear forming in the fabric of reality itself. It wasn't just another ship descending. It was something far worse, a gaping void spread across the heavens, swallowing the dim light of the stars and replacing it with something unnatural, something alive. The so-called gods we had spent months fighting were scattering, their fleets breaking apart, their once mighty warriors fleeing like terrified prey. These beings, these invaders who had called themselves divine, were afraid. And if they were afraid, then what did that make us? I tore my gaze away from the flickering screen, my heart pounding. "Tell me what's coming," I demanded, my voice sharp, cutting through the tension. The alien leader exhaled slowly, his silver skin dim in the bunker's artificial light. "They have no name," he said, "or perhaps they have too many." He looked up, his gaze distant, haunted. We were their messengers, their conquerors. We expanded their reach, thinking we served them, but in the end, we were only their harvesters. My fingers tightened around my rifle. Harvesters? His expression darkened. Every world we took in their name, we did not take for ourselves. We prepared them. We softened them. And when the time came, when the resistance was broken, the real gods arrived. Davis stepped forward, shaking his head in disbelief. "You mean to tell me you wiped out entire civilizations, thinking you were in charge, only to be nothing more than servants?" The alien nodded once, solemnly. "And now you've killed us, which means—" He gestured weakly toward the screen. "You have no one left standing between you and them." For the first time, I understood. The war we thought we were fighting wasn't the real war. We had spent everything, sacrificed everything to beat an enemy that had never truly been the final threat. We had forced them to retreat, and in doing so, we had rung the dinner bell for something far worse. Patel's voice came through the radio again, his tone barely controlled panic. "Commander, you need to see this. They're— A high-pitched, unnatural wail screeched through the comms. And then the line went dead. Davis cursed. "We have to get topside now." I turned back to the alien leader. He didn't move, didn't try to escape. He just sat there, accepting his fate. "You don't want to fight them," I said. It wasn't a question. He gave a weary smile. "Fight?" He let out a dry, humorless laugh. "You don't fight gods. You endure them." I didn't have time for cryptic warnings. Whatever was out there, we had to face it. I gestured to my squad. "Move out." We left him behind, climbing the wrecked stairwell back to the surface. As we emerged into the open air, the sight above us made my breath catch in my throat. The sky wasn't the sky anymore. A shape, too vast to comprehend, loomed over the horizon. It wasn't a ship, wasn't a fleet. It was something else entirely. Its form shifted, writhing, twisting, as if it wasn't bound by the laws of physics as we understood them. It was part shadow, part living nightmare, and every second I looked at it, I felt something gnawing at the edges of my mind, whispering in a voice I couldn't understand. The remaining enemy forces, our former invaders, were running. Some fired into the sky, their weapons useless against the entity's form. Others simply collapsed, overwhelmed by its presence. And then, as we stood frozen, the thing above us looked down. Not with eyes, at least not ones we could see, but we felt it. A pressure, a weight, bearing down on us like an entire ocean pressing against our skulls. Davis gasped beside me, dropping to one knee. My vision blurred, my thoughts turning to static. My body screamed at me to kneel, to submit. It was an instinct buried deep in our genes, the realization that we were prey. I gritted my teeth, forcing myself to stay upright. We had fought gods before, and we would fight them again, even if we didn't stand a chance. The weight pressing down on me was unbearable, like gravity itself had turned against my body. Every nerve in me screamed to kneel, to submit, to surrender to the presence looming above. My vision blurred at the edges, and for a moment I could see something. Something vast. A mind too large to comprehend, thoughts too alien to grasp. It wasn't just looking at us. It was reading us. Davis was on all fours, shaking violently, blood dripping from his nose. Patel had collapsed entirely, his breath coming in short, shallow gasps. Even the retreating remnants of our old enemy had fallen to their knees, their glowing forms dimming as if drained of whatever power had once made them seem divine. I clenched my fists, fighting against the overwhelming pressure. We had spent months proving we were stronger than the so-called gods that invaded us. But now I understood what they must have felt when they first faced this thing. The fear, the powerlessness. And yet, deep inside me, something burned. I forced my foot forward, dragging my boot across the cracked pavement. Every inch was agony, every breath like inhaling fire. But I moved. One step, then another. The thing above us shifted, its form twisting through impossible dimensions, as though it was surprised, as though it hadn't expected defiance. I bared my teeth, my voice a raw growl. "We don't kneel." The moment I spoke, something snapped. The weight pressing down on us fluctuated. Not gone, but uncertain. Like a predator reconsidering whether its prey might be dangerous after all. Davis coughed beside me, wiping the blood from his lips. He lifted his head, eyes unfocused but filled with the same fire. "Yeah," he rasped. "Screw you." Patel let out a breath and dragged himself upright. One by one the others followed. We didn't bow, we didn't break. We stood. The entity above us pulsed, shifting again. I could feel its mind pressing against mine, trying to understand. It had expected another easy conquest, another species too weak to resist its will. But humanity had never been easy prey. A deep, bone-rattling sound echoed from the sky. Not words, not a voice. Something older, something vast. It didn't speak in languages, but I understood anyway. A question. "What are you?" I grinned through the pain, my fingers curling into a fist. "We're the species that kills gods." The pressure vanished. The sky convulsed as the entity above us reeled, its form rippling like disturbed water. The battlefield fell silent, the air charged with something I couldn't name. And then it withdrew, not in fear, not in defeat, but in consideration, as if it had seen something in us, something it hadn't expected, something it respected. The void in the sky twisted one last time, then collapsed inward, vanishing in an instant. The air was still. The battlefield was ours. We had won, not just against the first gods, but against the ones they had feared. Davis exhaled sharply beside me. "Holy shit!" I nodded, my body finally giving in to exhaustion. I let my rifle fall slack in my grip, staring up at the now empty sky. "Yeah," I said. Holy shit. Humanity had stood, and the gods had taken notice.